Hey everybody, welcome. Sorry for the late-ish start, kind of. I forgot that go live was like a two-click option, and it was right in my face too. Like, hey, click here to really go live. And I was like, oh yeah, I should probably do that. Crazy, crazy, crazy week so far. First off, it's been a while since our last code break. I apologize. I definitely want to get into a more consistent schedule going into the fall. I can't blame the summer anymore because summer is wrapping up. Not that you could tell in Louisiana with it being 200 degrees. I had a doctor's appointment today, my yearly physical, and I am happy to say that I am the perfect weight for a 7.5 foot person. So I figure I can either lose weight or get taller. And I'm really going to work on the get taller part. That sounds easier and more fun than losing weight. If you are there, if you're watching, please give me a shout out in the comments so that I know that I actually did this correctly, and that I know that at least one person is out there in the void. Uh, yeah, thank you, Microsoft Edge, for popping that up on me. We are going to be talking about mapping again today, and I'm just waiting for one person to comment. If you're that person thinking, I don't really want to comment, Ray's very busy. No, you should absolutely drop a comment. Thank you, Mike. You win for being the first one I saw. All right. I don't mind broadcasting to a small crowd because small crowd is more intimate. I need at least one person. So thank you. Thank you, Mike. I think I called you Mark. If so, I apologize. Thank you, Mike. Oh, because Mark was right after him. And then after Mark was Sue. Hello, Sue. You've been here a lot. You're awesome. Thank you. Um, but yeah, like I said, it's been a couple of weeks. Gonna try to be more consistent going forward. Um, very happy to be here in general. It's funny, and I swear I will get to the tech, but you're hearing my stream, so you get to hear the personal stuff too. I shared like many, many sessions ago about how I deal with anxiety. And one of the most fun parts about anxiety is that every now and then it goes away. And it's weird because when it goes away for like days, my brain is like, something's wrong. Something's off. Like something is not right. And so for the last like week or so, that's what's been going on. Like my anxiety has just kind of shifted away. Not that all of my problems have gone away. No, 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 no. Not that life has gone like magically better, but just like that background buzz of anxiety has just been like chill. And I only realized that because there was like a part of my brain, like one of my love processes was like, something's off, something's not exactly going right. And it was a lack of anxiety, which is like not the norm that my brain kind of flagged as like a potential issue. Excuse me. So I am doing my best not to try to force it back to make things normal and just try to be cool with it, and just appreciate the fact that I'm not really dealing with anxiety now, and I should be happy with that. Plus, I have many other things to deal with. If you saw, there was a little hurricane last week. It was directly pointed to our city, like the projection path every day got closer and closer. And I wasn't too worried because Cat 1, Cat 2 is not, at least for where we live. We're about, I'm gonna say 30, 40 minutes from the coast. So we're not on the coast. Excuse me. But wind speed wise, I wasn't too worried about it. We have a generator, so if we lost power, I wasn't worried about it. And then like the day of, it just shifted east. And we ended up having like nothing. We had cooler temps, we had a bit more wind, and there was like 3 hours where it was, it was windy. But we were very fortunate that we dodged that bullet. And I think we only have 2 more months or so of dealing with potential hurricanes. So cannot wait to move to the Pacific Northwest where all I have to worry about is a giant volcano. So, with that, let me move some stuff over. get my screen set up the right way so y'all can see my stuff and drink some water since obviously I need to clear my throat. So before we begin, I will give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Jam.dev. Jam is a free screen recording browser extension that auto includes dev tools in every recording. And I know I say this every time, but having tried to help people with their web apps and stuff and getting non-technical people to work with dev tools can be problematic. So having a tool that can just kind of grab all that for you is really, really, really nice. They have integration with Jira, Linear, Asana, Notion, GitHub, and others. And it is free, so you should definitely take it out. And again, I greatly appreciate them sponsoring this show. Basically, you are allowing me to play and talk with code, and I appreciate that. And what we are talking about today, again, is more Leaflet, and I should have opened that up in the browser tab already. There we go. I'll put that right there. So we talked about Leaflet last week, and I have Scott Strohs to thank for that because he had mentioned it. And one business trip, I had a couple hours where I was able to play with it, and I really, really, really dug it. So in the last session, we did kind of like the basic maps, and we did a couple things with it, and just kind of played around with it and had fun with it. And if you follow my blog, you know that I have also done a couple different blog posts, a couple of different demos talking about Leaflet.js. In fact, I have one planned hopefully for this week talking about Alpine.js and Leaflet. So I am a fan. And what I said I was going to do last session and what the plan is to talk about a Leaflet demo making use of the National Park System API. And I will open that up. If you are watching this and you're not in America, we have a National Park Service that is in charge of the parks. And they have a lot of data. Don't be surprised there, including some rather interesting APIs. Now, I will say this is not the first time that I played with them. When I was at Here, which is a mapping company, and that was my last job, I loved to build demos with these APIs because they're parks. They're happy APIs, little fluffy, happy APIs. And they're free and they're easy to use and yada, yada, yada. It was just a great way to get data. So, what I had done, and let me, yep, I do have that open. Let's open up this demo, and it is GeoJSON. So one of the things I'd done last time was get the GeoJSON data layer for the national park system, which is actually not easy to find, but it is a flat file. And if you remember, you will open this up here. And we'll scroll to the top. GeoJSON is a JSON spec that allows you to encode geographic data. It includes both the location of stuff, and by location, it's incredibly freeform. So it could be a point like you see on screen there. And as always, y'all tell me if that font is too small. It could be a point, it could be a polygon, it could be multiple points, it could be a line of points, and so forth. Basically, any possible way that you can imagine drawing on a map to show something. GeoJSON supports that along with any ad hoc properties. So in this case, the National Parks GeoJSON file includes a code for each park and the name of each park. And you can see here, Frederick Law Olmsted National Historic Site. I will be honest and say I don't know who Frederick Law Olmsted is. I should, especially since the first one always in my data. But if we scroll here, we can see lots and lots of data points. I believe around 390 or so representing all the parks. Now, this is what let me view it on the map. And let's just quickly review the code because the code, Leaflet is just like it's pleasant. Like, it makes me, like, really happy just how darn easy it is to use. So, you do have a CSS that you drop in, and you can see it right there. You also need a place to put your map, and you have to use CSS to size that, and I've done that for right there. That's lines 10 through 12. And I have my div for where the map will go. And then the code for this is all of 12, 13 lines or so. I do a call to load my GeoJSON. By the way, I could have copied and pasted into my script tag, or I could have copied and pasted into a .js file, but it felt better being separated, so that's what I did. Using the native browser fetch, I grab it and I parse that JSON. This line here is all I needed to basically say, hey, in the div that is ID'd map, I want you to load a map. I want you to center it on this lat long. That happens to be America, and specify a default zoom. I then have to add a map tile, and that is the actual things that you see. So America, for example, or if I scroll around, whatever, that's actually provided by openstreetmap.org. So I give an attribution there. And then one line to basically take all that GeoJSON and just drop it into the map. And if we go back, we could zoom in. And by the way, so this is small. It could be bigger. That's me. That's not Leaflet. Um, Also, there are map features that allow you to say, I have a crap ton of stuff. I want you to aggregate it into smaller clusters that you click and then zoom into. I'm forgetting the technical name for that, but Leaflet supports it. But if we scroll in here, we could see my map markers, and I don't actually have any click handler for this, but that's one of the things that we're going to work on. But these are all the maps in America. And you could see Alaska, Hawaii over here as well, and San Juan and the British Virgin Islands. Not sure why that's on there. Maybe somebody could tell me. But this is kind of a basic, boring map that in this session I want to make better. And Sue has a great question. Can you make the map responsive? I believe so, yes. So for my div, go back to the code. I have a hard-coded height and width. You could make it fit the viewport instead. I don't think that would be a problem at all. And in fact, you know what? We're gonna do that in a second. Um, what I'm not sure about, Sue, would be the pop-up labels that we're going to add. And let me actually, instead of talking about those, my other one, stores.html. See that label right there? I honestly don't know what you would do on a smaller form factor. You can specify the dimensions of these pop-ups. So in theory, you could possibly sniff the height and width and make changes on the fly. You could even do things like if you had a lot of data in your pop-up, you could do less on mobile. So it's less obtrusive on a mobile device. Sue, I want you to remind me of that later and maybe even send me an email because that's something that I think I would like to dig into more later. Great question. So I mentioned, let's go back to the national park system. So I mentioned that the national park system has APIs, and we'll go into the documentation. And it's actually really, really intensive. So you can see on screen here activities, alerts, amenities, articles, campgrounds, lesson plans. The one that I care about is the parks one. And what this does is let you pass in a park code, and it will give you a crap ton of data about the park, like way more than we'll be able to use. But what I thought is that it'd be kind of cool to see if I could tie up the info label of the map to gather the data, the extended data for the park and just tell you more about it. It even includes pictures as well. You can see the screen down here. See activities, addresses, contacts, description. I mean, it's a, entrance fees are pretty cool. It's just a wealth of data. So one of the first things I did actually was go into CodePen and make sure that their API supported cores so that I can call it from a client side application. And it does. You do need a key. There's my key there. Feel free to steal it. But I passed in a hard coded part code, ABLI, and I just console.log it and it works. So we don't have to worry about that. So two things we're going to do. We're going to still use a GeoJSON level layer of data. And when you click, I'm going to show a pop-up. And in that pop-up, I want the data to come from the API. Now, one thing I'll say, I built this like last week or so just to confirm that the API was still working and my key was still there. The API was incredibly slow last week. And just now I reloaded. I'm not sure how well you all saw that on the stream, but it loaded in about a second. So that's not too bad. I do want to try to build some client-side caching in here as well to make it a little bit quicker. So we have this, we know it works. Let's get started. So I'm going to copy GeoJSON 1 and give it a nicer name. We will rename it to nps.html. Very, very creative. And let's go in here, nps.html. And by the way, I say this every time, and I apologize. If I alt tab too quick, y'all just tell me. I will slow down. Oh, I didn't realize I had a person from the API. Mike, I was kidding when I said you could take my API key. Totally kidding. Very happy to see that. Mike, actually, I'll say, so you made a big mistake admitting that you come from that organization because now I'm just going to pester you. So two things, Mike. The GeoJSON, like the official layer, it felt like really hard to find. Like I felt demos and I could see the URL and all that. It felt, and I found geographical data sets, but I couldn't find one for parks. I found one for like the parking lots and amenities and all that. I couldn't find like the official parks GeoJSON thing. So that's one thing. And I thought I had a second piece of feedback. I don't. Y'all are great. So cool. So this is our copy. First thing I want to do is we have a lot more real estate, right? Screen wise. Let's take up all the real estate and we're going to do 100 virtual height and 100 vertical width. If I remember right, I need to set my body margin to 0 as well. So we'll see if it gives us scroll bars. It does. But look at that beautiful map. We will set body margin 0px. And those of you who have been here before know that my CSS is not the best. So feel free to make comments. So bam, there we go. To be honest, for an American-centered map, this may be a bit too big, but I have a large screen and I think that's okay. So cool. So next thing we got to do is add that little click to pop up, right? So I did that in stores.html. And we are going to bind a pop-up. And you know what? I really think, I have a few too many files here open. Let's get this a little bit smaller. So I think that Leaflet, when I do the add to, I think I could automatically add binding pop-ups. And you know what? I did a blog post on GeoJSON and pop-ups. So I'm going to do what I do often is go back to my blog post and not that one. There you go. Building a general purpose GeoJSON viewer with Leaflet. So if I remember right, bam, right there. God, Leaflet, you are stupid easy. Now the issue we have here is, can we use an async function? I don't know. But let's start simple and just do the park name. So we will drop that in right there. Again, freaking love how darn easy Leaflet is. So it wasn't name. We'll look at our GeoJSON. It was, oh no, it was name. All right. And capital N, if capital N there. So in theory, that one little thing there will give all our parks names. And again, I freaking love Leaflet. Let's click. Boom. Glacier National Park, Denali National Park and Preserve. Have never been to Alaska. Really want to go to Alaska. Too tired of the heat down here. But let's look at our parks down here. The Jean Lafitte National Historical Park, Cane Rio Creole, and New Orleans Jazz National Historic Park. All right. And by the way, this is where I live, Lafayette. And this is where the hurricane was heading. And like I said, it juked a bit to the right. So we got lucky. So, bam. So we got that. And we could just try an async function. Oops. And you know what? I'm going to open up DevTools here. Oh, I hate the what's new. Go away. Go away. There we go. All right. And we're going to scroll down a little bit here. And if I just drop, even though I'm not doing anything async in here, let's see if Leaflet recognizes it and complains. And it didn't. And aha, it did error, failed to, yes. So this is where we go to the docs to see if maybe they say, hey, if you want to do async stuff, do it this way. So we're going to look at bind pop-up, go in the docs. Really hoping for a search. They don't have a search. That is a shame. So we did GeoJSON. The result of that was bind pop-up. I am assuming, yeah, methods for layers and controls. Yes, we realize that. And pop-up methods. So let's look in the pop-up methods area and see if potentially they have a way of doing an async one. See if they mention something. And they have a lot of options, but they don't. Now, I'm not too concerned about this because worst case, I skip the easy GeoJSON add, and I just kind of manually add each of the layers. And I did that in my stores demo right there. I added a marker for each store. I did a bind pop-up. And there is, I wonder if I could just add a click method to it. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. All right. So I'm not seeing anything obvious here. Let's actually control F for async. Oh, there we go. Happy I didn't leave. The creation can also be a synchronous third-party drawing library. All right, so this is actually for creating the tile, not really for the pop-up. So let's try this. Leaflet bind pop-up async. Leaflet. Unable to successfully bind. I don't know why I'm on Bing. I know why I'm on Bing. I made a new Edge profile for my browser for my presentations, and it defaulted to that. And yep, that looks like the exact error I got. Did the trick. Removing async. Well, you can't just remove async. In the end, it was just a timing issue. Well, there's no way you can just update the data in an async manner. So they're creating the content for it here. They're setting some stuff. They have this call here. They're running it. They're returning the element. Oh, okay. Well, if I read this right, they're pointing to the element. The async function later can just write to it. That feels like it may be good, but you know what? Let's go. Let's keep that tab, and we'll go into Google, and we'll say leaflet bind pop-up with async data. Adding pop-up data that that is updated through an API using Leaflet.js. And oh wow, using jQuery, so looking quite old. When I use, for example, here, I don't like this at all. So we're not going to do that one. Adding to feature group asynchronously. I really thought this would be much easier to do. Hmm. Let's try a different Google. Let's do pop-up with async and see if that does it. How to add a click event to button inside marker pop-up. And bind. Oh, well, so they have a event handler for a pop-up open. And if that were to give you access to the pop-up, then we could just point to it. So let's look at pop-up open. Got too many tabs. And let's see. Pop-up open. There we go. Pop-up event. All right. And you are past the pop-up. So in theory, we can listen for the pop-up event. We have access to it. We can make our async call, and then in theory, just update the HTML later. I am very unsure about that, but let's try doing it. So map on pop-up. I'm gonna copy. I'm not gonna use all that code, obviously. We go in NPS. Got my map here. I want to get rid of the async. Get rid of some of this stuff we don't need and just add it here. All right. And we are going to get rid of all that. Now let's just console.log it. And I know we are past the pop-up. We'll call it P. Pop-up open. Pop-up open. And we'll log the P object, which I assume will be just a leaflet thing. Go back into the demo. All right, reload it automatically. And yeah, all right, we have E. That must be the element. So I am wondering if we can just change the HTML. Let's look at what this is. We have options, we have the content. What I really want to do is I want to change this because I want to, progressively load in that data. So the pop-up event has a type pop-up. All right. You are I don't feel like you are loading. I'm clicking on the type equals pop-up and I don't see. There we go. UI layers pop-up. And I want to see like the pop-up object. All right. So this must be it in theory. And all this looks correct, although I don't see a way to modify the content. Sets the HTML. So for the heck of it, let's just try Let's try, and something was lagging there. Let's try changing the or let's log the HTML, or I'm sorry, the content. And in theory, because I'm returning just the name, it should be just the name in theory. Click out here in Hawaii, undefined. You suck. P.content. That's definitely what it showed. Back to documentation. Content. Yes. L pop-up options. See, if these are the options that go to the pop-up, I keep trying to find like how Leaflet defines uh what, you know, what its things are. So these are all options. So methods, maybe, and this web page, by the way, it is not making Edge happy. I'm seeing as I open stuff, y'all probably can't see, but it is lagging. Get content. There we go. So if we can get content and set content, I bet that would be how we do it. So get content and reload and no, no. It's definitely an option because you said, you know what? Let's look at P again because maybe it's the pop-up. Oh, pop-up event. I bet you P is the event. And Scott is Stro saying maybe you said, yeah, no, I think what happened is that I got a pop-up event, and the property of the pop-up event will be, I think, the actual pop-up. And so, yes, so I logged all of p.pop-up. That's it. So we'll call this PE for pop-up event, and PE.popup. And what did I say? Get content. And this is totally going to work. Totally. And I was worried I was going to end too quick. Boom, returned a function, which if we look at the docs, get content, can return a string or HTML element. I mean, technically that is right. But I really thought it would actually, return the actual rendered content, not how it created. So for the heck of it, let's do p pop-up set content. Please work for the love of God, for the love of God. And I saved that, and wow, that worked shockingly fast. So let's do something async. There was a get element function. Yeah. HTML container. You know what? Let's yeah, and I should hide Scott and show Scott. This is what he suggested. Let's see what get element it does. Because that may be better than doing set content, which is working. Go back to our demo, click. It returned. Yeah, now I feel like that is actually what's in there, but my issue is that I don't necessarily want to have to recreate that. If set content is just all I need to change the inside, I'm gonna stick with content. Now, here's my concern. Let's see if we do something asynchronous and see if it still works. So set timeout function, and we'll do 2 seconds. And I realize that may be weird for y'all on the stream. And just to make sure, we'll say delayed result. And in theory, it will still update the content, but it will do it after loading. Now, my mind is already seeing problems with this. So it says Hawaii. All right. So for those of you in the stream, and I'll click again, when you click, oh, it changed it for all of them. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, let me reload to show you what happened. So when I clicked, it said Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and then 2 seconds later, it changed the content, and now every single pop-up is doing this, which is not what we want. Not at all. So, we're gonna stop doing that. We're gonna stop. I think this kinda quick and easy hack, not hack, not hack at all, but this quick and easy way of just applying the GeoJSON to the thing. Although I do have to wonder, I'm gonna stop mucking with things right there. I am curious if this runs every single time. I'm thinking it has to. Layer.feature.properties. So we'll click Hawaii, and let me make my console a bit bigger for y'all. There you go. So it does show it. And I'll click over here. Okay. So I basically, or what bind pop-up did was create a function that's run every time you click on a pop-up. That makes sense. I just have to wonder if there's some way to do something asynchronous such that you can do it later. And we did find that result on Bing right here, where they didn't return just a string; they returned a DOM element, right? And they have an async function that does stuff and then updates it later. So we could do that as my cat jumps on my lap. So I don't know why this solution just seemed kind of bad to me, but it's actually maybe something that works. So let's let's try it. Why not? So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this pop up, this event handler, and we are going to come in here and we are going to comb saw like that. Comment this out, and we're going to try kind of what they did. We're going to do this and get rid of their weird spacings. We're going to do this, and we're going to actually kind of mimic them. Layer.feature.properties.name. All right. And then at the end, they return the element. That part makes sense. And they haven't actually written out to the element. That happens in their async function right there. So let's try. My confidence on this is low. We'll try a 2-second timeout again. And we will, like them, we will write to the element, and we'll do HTML, but we'll also add something random later junk. So let's see what this does. Let's see. Go back in here. No errors yet. Click. It's blank, which makes sense, and it worked. Now here, and again, hopefully you were able to see that on this stream. I'm a little concerned about me clicking on a bunch of markers at once to see what happens, but I'm not going to worry about that now. I'm just going to cheat a little bit. So I don't want to set timeout. Definitely don't want that. But what we do want is to update the stuff later. So I'm going to make a new function over here, async function get park data. It's going to take a code. We're going to take that code from my code pin. Again, their docs are just fine, but I already have this code written. And we're going to drop this in here. We're going to make that code a variable. I should take out the key and, or at least, move it but we'll do that. And we will just return. Now, this returns a crap ton of data, like I mentioned. But I want to see like one thing in here that like I know would be nice. Description. And I'm going to try to add that in there. So async functions return promises. So I'm going to say get park data, and I am passing my code layer.feature.properties.code, then result equals, oops. And if this works, I will dance on my head. HTML plus equals, we'll make this nicer, r dot, I just set a description, and it is an array object because that API can return multiple things. We're going to cheat here and always return element 0. Nope. Let's try this again. Paren, bracket 0. Back up here. Result dot description. And I forgot my brackets. This is going to work. This is totally going to work. I could tell right now. L.enter HTML equals HTML. Still worried about clicking on multiple things at one time. But this is totally going to work. And just to ensure, say got crap back R, just make sure it's actually firing. And, oh, wrong window. No errors. It's always a good sign when you reload and there's no errors. And click, and cannot read, got crap back undefined. Did I not return? Okay, so let's not be fancy and just return JSON result and come back, click. Oh, it's under a data array. I missed that in the code pen. Oh, because I was logging data. All right, so we are going to return data, and we're only doing one part, so we can do 0, and like that. Oh, and look at that. All right, it's totally off screen, but it worked. And the description is a bit long. Let's click over here, and it's working. It's not displaying well, but we got that. And so I'd be willing to bet we can pass some arguments to set a specific width. In fact, you know what? Looking at my code, I believe I did that. Let's see. I did right here. So this blog post was a drag and drop any GeoJSON file and ask Leaflet to render it. So not anything asynchronous, but I did have this kind of issue with a lot of data and making it fit. And you could specify a min width in that bind popup. So we will go to our bind popup, which was right here. Let me start getting rid of some of these comments. And min width 500 px. Is it px? Is it just a number? Just a number. All right. So in theory now we'll have a bit more space for that. Like I said, I'm still feeling like if I click twice quickly, there we go. Now my question, I wonder if I could do like a loading indicator as well, but no, that's optimizing too early. If I click over here, and then, so here will be the real test. I'm gonna reload. I'm gonna click that Hawaii one, the Volcanoes National Park, and then I'm gonna immediately click elsewhere and see if when the pop-up shows it's loading the wrong thing. Like, is Leaflet smart enough to kill the asynchronous process the function fired? I don't think it is. Let's see what happens. Click, too slow. Mike, you made the API too quick. Okay, can you make it slower again for me? Let's try this again. Click. I'm trying to break it, and I don't think I can. You know what? Let's zoom in. That may make it easier to try to break it. Click, click. All right, so that's Kalupa National Historic Park. This is the World War II Valor. So if I click, click, yeah, I am trying like heck to break it. I don't feel confident that it's working perfectly. Um, but it's, if this is a function, it's possible they're killing killing it and then resetting it. I don't know. In theory, I could actually I could really slow it down. So I could artificially slow down their API and see what happens, and then see if we have drawing a blank on a concurrency issue. So to see if that is, see if that's an issue. Uh, yes, we keep saying click, click. Listen, if I don't narrate, you know, then how do people know that I'm actually doing stuff? Um, that actually worked. Let's push it because we do have all this real estate. I'm going to go back to my code pen, and if we scroll down, one of the cool things about the APIs is that they have pictures. I actually built a Mastodon bot that uses the API, picks a random park, and then shows a picture of it with the Mastodon post, which is kind of cool. Um, and of course, CodePen couldn't show the whole thing, so let's scroll up. Let's get the real console and like that. There we go. Scroll in here, images. And do they have sizes? They do not. But let's try this. So images is an array. The URL is right there. We can use some CSS maybe to constrain how big it is. Yeah, let's do this. So images 0.url. Why not? So we will add another paragraph. HTML plus equals paragraph r.images 0.url. And actually, I do know HTML, I promise. Image source, style like that. You should use CSS, but for right now, I'm going to cheat and do a width of 500. We'll make it 480. And let's see if we can get a lovely picture in there, and I need my backtick there. And now, in theory, we'll get a picture. And let me actually make this smaller so we have more real estate. And oh, sweet. And unfortunately, it's a bit too big. So heck, you know what? Let's actually make this 380 and make it even smaller. That's still too big. Let's make it 250. And again, should be using CSS, yada, yada, yada. Click down here and look at that. Look, let's actually go in Louisiana. Look at the jazz one. That's beautiful. And look at that. And I could center it and stuff like that. And by the way, I should point out, and I did some demos at here like this as well. You don't necessarily need to put everything in this pop-up. One of the things that I did at here quite often was use a HTML panel type UI on the left-hand side, where I had a bit more vertical space. And then I could click on a marker and I would load the data there. Uh, Sue was saying, do you have to give it a width? Yes, because I am pretty sure we will right click, open image in new tab. This image is going to be huge. So if I didn't give it a width, although, oh, you know what? You're asking because I have a min width. If I maybe give it a max width, it could constrain. You know what? Let's try that. Max width 500. That seems silly to have min and max, but And by the way, I do this hack all the time. If I want to remove an HTML attribute or a CSS property and I think I'll need it back, I just give it a invalid property. I love that about HTML. HTML is like, you can do whatever you want. I don't mind. So let's see what happens. Oh, no, that did not work. That is a very large picture of something. So, Sue, the answer is no. You can't just do that. We'll get rid of the max width, get this back in. Um, I could potentially, let's try 100 or let's try 90% and see if it constrains to the size of the container. And Mike is saying you could add some URL image. Oh, Mike, do you know if that's documented? Like I literally, like I've been using your API for years, and I literally only used the Parks API, like none of the other endpoints. Let's see, what's Eric saying? Dot map, yeah. If you put max width on your images, it might work. Yeah, so as far as I knew, hidden feature. What do I say? If it's not documented, it's not a real feature. Mike, that's cool, but I won't use it because, like, I respect, like, if especially a government service like the Park Service, like, I don't want to abuse your stuff. And Sue was saying if you put a max width in your images, it might work. Yes, as far as I know, max width would properly constrain the ratio. I believe it does just exact same in HTML as well. It's better in CSS. Um, and to be honest, it'd be better in CSS as well because I could do things like centering the image. I am curious if 90% will keep it to the, excuse me, to the limits that the panel, the markup panel did. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it did. It got a little bit bigger, but that is all right. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I am not 100% convinced that I don't have a race condition. Um, heck, you know what? We got 5 minutes. Let's quickly do a race condition, right? No, cat, you're not climbing up over here. So I need to return a promise. I'm going to return, which the async function does for you automatically. Reject. So we're going to cheat here a little bit. We're going to cheat here a little bit. We're going to wrap this. Is that where it goes? No, it doesn't go there. We are going to wrap this in a timeout. This is bad code. Please don't do this. So set timeout. And make it 5 seconds. Make this really slow. And in fact, now we're no longer returning this. We are resolving await r.json. Get my parens right. I should have just copied and pasted. Data 0. All right. So in theory, why are you complaining? Oh, yeah. Just keep throwing parens and asyncs until you fix it. All right. In theory, I just wrap that function to make it slower. So we'll see, and I will open up my console again to see if anything goes wrong. We'll click. It'll take 5 seconds, and it loaded. And Salt Bay. So now the test is, I'll click over here and then click in Hawaii, and then click back, and then I should not see Hawaii. I should see a Florida thing. Yeah, holy smokes, that worked. So that means that Leaflet is intelligently handling the fact that this function was still running, um, or yeah, it was still running, and when that pop-up went away, it cleaned up the memory such that the new pop-up worked. I love Leaflet, even though I feel like I feel like this particular aspect should have been a bit simpler, and now it's on my queue to kind of look up, a new way of doing this. Um, and I hate this code here. This was just for testing. So we will return it back to its nice, pristine, fast state. And oh, by the way, I had planned, and ran out of time. I planned to add server side, client side caching to this, so we're not hitting the API every time. But it's so darn fast now. Thanks, Mike. It's so darn fast now. I probably won't. We could do that next time. Um, as much as I really love playing with Leaflet, I do think next time I want to move on to a new topic. But I will blog about this because I feel like this by itself was very interesting, and I want to share the code. I am going to look more around the docs to maybe there was an easier way of doing this and I missed it. We'll see. If you're watching this video later and you know, then definitely reach out. Thank you all again for being here. Let me actually switch the camera, comme ça, like that. Thank you all again. And my idea for next week, and I would love, oh, sorry, let me hide your comment there, Sue. Um, I'm thinking next week I want to play with charts. Charts are something that I've done in JavaScript for many many years. I enjoy it. A couple years ago, I did a here's one data and here's three charting libraries. Let's compare and contrast. I kind of wouldn't mind doing the same thing for a session or two. So taking the same data and saying, all right, let's see how hard this is to use one JavaScript library, and let's try another one to see how difficult it is to work with. That is my idea. If you have other ideas, feel free to reach out to me. I am at raymondcamden.com. Thank you all for the comments. Last couple of sessions, y'all have been incredibly talkative. I really, really, really appreciate all of your comments. Have a great, safe rest of the week. And I will talk to y'all later. Goodbye.